But what makes a tip slide? The conventional theory is that when too much water is present, it lubricates the ground beneath the tip. If this is clay, it becomes as slippery as a banana skin, and suddenly the whole lot can shoot down the hillside. A Cardiff scientist, Prof Ford, holds an opposite view. He believes the cause lies in the tip itself.
The principle of it is quite simple. In a coal tip, the material runs up a kind of railway on a track of some description. Usually, of course, this railway runs on the surface of the tip. And the material discharges into a large conical pile. The angle of this is critical and is known, here it is, for obvious reasons, as the angle of repose. It depends on the way in which the different particles within the mass are pressing on the particles beneath them, and this depends on their density. When a mass becomes filled with water, saturated with liquid, the density of each particle is less. Therefore they press less heavily upon each other. The effect of this is to lessen the angle of repose. The only way this can happen is by the whole tip losing height, spreading out at its base, and, in effect, sliding down onto the surrounding countryside. This is a mixture of the same type of slag as is found in all the South Wales slag tips, a mixture of ground stone with a very small mixture of coal and combustible materials. The main problem that I've been mostly concerned with is to try and find why it is that materials move. Many people have talked of the action of moistened clay over a period of many years, or erosion by rainwater, as being capable of causing things to move. But in fact, if you look into these things in detail, all they do is encourage them to move. One must look for some initial evidence, some kinetic, some source of energy that starts the movement. My feeling is that this takes place when any piled up dry material becomes wet. It forms, as you can see on this pile, at an angle of repose, an angle at which the pile can naturally be made. But dry materials have a much higher angle of repose than wet. With this device, one can introduce water into a dry imitation of the slag that is found in South Wales coal tips. As the water soaks the pile, it becomes dark and begins to glisten, and sure enough, at a certain critical stage, the whole thing slides away. A rather terrifying example in miniature of what happens when a tip collapses.